March Madness has been going on for a while now, and one major part of the tournament which makes it so popular are the upsets. It's always a good story when an underdog knocks off the powerhouse teams we're all sick of. So here is the evolution of upsets in the NCAA tournament. The first instance of a major upset came in 1956. North Carolina State came into the tournament as the second best team in the nation until they were knocked off early by Canisius. 10 years later, the first all-black lineup in Texas Western faced Kentucky's all-white lineup coached by Adolph Rupp. In the finals matchup, Bobby Joe Hill and the Miners dominated the entire game to make history. Later on throughout the next few decades though, a few upsets would occur. Some notable ones included Penn withstanding 1 seed UNC, St. Joe's barely escaping DePaul, and the Richmond Spiders winning 2. But major upsets started picking up in the 80s, and most of them came from the finals. 1983. The Houston Cougars were one of the most fun and athletic teams to watch, with Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon and Clyde the Glide Drexler. The Phi Slamma Jamma were a force to be reckoned with thunderous dunks dominating Houston's highlight reel. And in the 1983 finals, their opponents couldn't have been much easier. NC State, coached by Jim Valvano, barely edged past their opponents game after game until the 16 seed luckily reached the finals. If NC State were to win this game, they needed to play almost perfect basketball. The second biggest upset in finals history was Villanova versus Georgetown. This finals game held basically the same circumstances as a Houston one. Villanova was a squad who barely even made the tournament, and Georgetown were the defending national champs with a future NBA superstar in Patrick Ewing. If NC State had to play perfect, Villanova had to play spectacular.
Jackson, and there are just 5 seconds left. There will be no dynasty. Villanova has done it.
Villanova did end up playing spectacular that game, only holding Ewing to 14 points and shooting almost 80% from the field. In the 1990s, the first round would prove to be the most dangerous round for upsets. And although a 1 seed hadn't lost to a 16 seed yet, 2 seeds were falling left and right.
And 4:55 away from victory. The Richmond Spiders. Underneath, Wood.
Arizona's got a chance. Stoudemire. No. Check Here's a steal. Singletary comes up with it. Gets 2 this time. Favorite. Now in Pittsburgh. Outstanding from start to finish. Inbound pass being thrown by Jacob Sykes. Carter freshman. It's to Jefferson through for the win. Gone! He did it! 42 did it! Valpo has won the game! A miracle! Conference State Eagles are going to become the third number 15 to knock off a number 2.
For so many years, 29 seasons at Princeton, Pete Carell had come close to pulling off the big upset.
Next up is Duke, who featured in many notable upsets. Let's head back to 1990 when Coach K of Duke led them to their first ever title appearance under him, and they faced UNLV. And that just happened to turn into the biggest blowout in NCAA championship history, a 30-point loss. But this defeat by Duke wasn't considered all that embarrassing. After all, UNLV had built up one of, if not the greatest wrecking crews in basketball history. The next year, UNLV stormed into the Final Four with a 34-game winning streak, led by star Larry Johnson, and the Blue Devils wanted revenge.
Stopping his dribble later on him. Hunt will have to do something. Off the back of the Farleygh's got it. Duke has done it. Duke has upset UNLV.
This win by Duke went down as one of the most shocking upsets in the 1990s. 8 years later, though, Duke was not the prey anymore, but the predator. Coach K made Duke into the powerhouse we know today, and despite an impressive season by their opponents, UConn, they were still no match for Duke in the national championship.
They'll need a three to tie. Trajan Langdon's going to take the length of the floor and try to get it off. He doesn't have a lot of time here. Pressure from Jones. Langdon trips, and UConn has done it! El Amin comes over and says, "We shocked the world."
The 2000s sparked the beginning of the 11-seed Cinderella runs we know today. It all began with George Mason in 2006. Out of nowhere, the small school from the CAA bursted through Michigan State, North Carolina, and Wichita State until they faced their toughest opponent yet, the 1-seed UConn.
Rebound, UConn. Denham Brown, 3 to go. Denham Brown for 3. No good! By George, the dream is alive.
George Mason's season ended at the Final Four, and so did VCU's 5 years later. In 2011, the field was expanded to 68 teams, and in the first 4 was VCU. Experts and analysts couldn't have put less thought towards VCU. Many argued that they were a wasted spot in the tournament, but next thing you know, they were knocking out their opponents. VCU was in the Elite Eight against the top seed Kansas, and in an upset, Jamie Skeen of VCU scored 26 points in their win over the Jayhawks. Over the next decade, upsets would occur even more often.
Smith peeks at the clock, 7 on the timer. Makes his move. Step back, Jay. Bullseye! The outside. Washington! Off the mark, and it's over! It's March! Expect the unexpected! Lead, 9 to shoot. Watched by Wheeler. Eder. Kaboom! A 3! Wheeler gives it up. Brooks, the jumper. No good! You can feel the madness! St. Peter's pulls off the upset.
And of course, I saved the best for last, the biggest upset in March Madness history. This game marked the only time a 16 seed beat a 1 seed, and in 2018 that was Virginia and UMBC. UMBC was a small school from the America East, who at one point in the season lost 83-39 to Albany. Virginia, on the other hand, held only 2 losses that season. They also managed that while playing in a tough division with Duke and UNC. So when the best team in the league played the worst team, with Virginia favored by 20, the most unexpected upset occurred in tournament history. And this wasn't just a nail-biter, but it was a full-on blowout. Virginia couldn't afford a shot, and UMBC was hitting them all day.
Pass is stolen! What has happened to Virginia?
Flustered because of this persistent performance.